this week's episode of Sustainable Joes, I sit down with Lloyd, the managing editor for Treehugger.com, the largest green website in the world, getting over 9 million hits a month for a personal one-on-one interview. That's coming at you in about 20 seconds. Quickly to recap what happened in the world of Sustainable Joes this week, I convened the first ever PricewaterhouseCoopers and Sustainable Joes roundtable called a Dialogue for Difference Makers at the Gold Certified Lead Building in downtown Toronto of PwC. It was fantastic. As soon as I receive feedback, I'll give it to you. I'm thinking about 7 to 10 days there. I also stopped in at Lauren and Danny's, the shipping container houses, on the way back from Toronto. They have made some amazing progress. And I signed Pope and I up for Bullfrog Power. That will be coming at you as well next week. If you missed last week's episode where Jane and I explored some shocking numbers pertaining to low-flow shower heads, you can check it out right here. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy the interview with Lloyd, the managing editor of Treehugger.com. This man is really smart. Hi world, Stephen Such here. I'm with Lloyd, the managing editor for Treehugger.com, and a new dynamic that I would like to introduce to the Sustainable Joes YouTube channel is one-on-one interviews with key influencers, difference makers who are moving the world in the direction of a sustainable now. Lloyd, thanks so much for being here.
A pleasure.
So, if you could tell everybody a little bit about what you do, what you're passionate about, and why you do it.
Okay, I am, by background, trained as an architect and got very concerned when I was building buildings well over a decade ago about how much waste there was, how much difficulty it was in building things, how much people brought into their apartments, and just became convinced that the key to sustainability is actually just to use less stuff. And I was at the time sending little things off to a new website called Treehugger.com, and before I knew it, I was writing for them, and then I was writing full-time, and now I'm managing editor of it. So I'm an architect who's now a writer, and I also teach sustainable design at Ryerson University School of Interior Design.
Amazing. So being that one of the missions of Joes is to develop a sustainable now, to catalyze that change and to identify and engage people, that creates action, what can everybody do?
Well, this is actually one of the hardest questions. 2 years ago, one of my students, after I was lecturing all year about green buildings and green this and green that, she just sort of burst out in the middle of it. I'm a student, I live here, I can't afford solar panels, I can't get a Prius, what should I do? And she really hit the nail on the head that the key issues of sustainable living have very little to do with buying stuff, with getting gizmos, with putting solar panels on your roof. The simple, most important thing that you can do is change the way you get around, because the consumption of petroleum is one of the most inefficient, ridiculous uses of energy that we have. And the whole system, the whole city has to be designed around in terms of parking, in terms of highways, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of concrete. Our society revolves around the car, and that is in fact our biggest problem.
So in a recent Sustainable Joes episode, I highlighted that, or actually a friend of mine, Andy, in Florida, sent in a video highlighting the Tesla Model S. So obviously that's an electric fueled or powered vehicle. Thoughts on that?
It's a brilliant, brilliant car. It's a revolution in cars. We just did a big story about a guy who just got in a huge accident, walked away from it fine.
Apparently it's the safest car
that's ever been built. But to support that car, you still need the massive infrastructure of roads, the parking,
charging stations.
The charging, less so. It's mainly, I believe, the problem is the infrastructure. You know, there's 10 times as much space used for parking than there is for actually living. It's huge. There are 4 parking spaces in Canada for every person in the country.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, wow.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
All this land use, covered in asphalt, all in concrete. So the Tesla is wonderful, but electric cars are not the answers to the problem of sustainability.
What is
No cars are the answer.
Okay.
You know, the brilliant writer from Montreal, Terence Gresco, said that that what we really need is 19th century technology for getting around, namely bicycles, subways, streetcars, and trams, and 21st century communication, our smartphones and our technologies that let us connect virtually instead of having to drive somewhere to talk to people. That this mix is what is going to save us. And when you look at young people today, you're finding fewer and fewer of them want to drive, and more of them are using their smartphones to connect. So I think we're actually naturally moving into that sphere.
Yeah, I lived in Barcelona for a year, and one thing I loved was the fact that I could rely. It had very reliable public transit that was cost effective, and it delivered me to where I wanted to go in a very efficient manner.
Right. And I have become so obsessed with my phone, because I live in an electronic world for my day job, that I prefer to take the streetcar than to drive, because
Absolutely,
I
because you
can
can
stay
work.
connected the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do we engage more people? I mean, because obviously that's what Joe's is trying to do, to engage and motivate and be that catalyst of change, developing a sustainable now. How do we do it?
Well, I think the way we do it is, after my students said these things to me, what can I do? I started looking at the 10 most important things that one could do.
Okay.
And they were, number one, live without a car. Use a transit, walking, or bicycle. The key to doing that is, unfortunately, location. That you can't do it if you live in the distant suburbs and there is either no or really crappy, undependable transport, and the bicycle distances are huge. So there's got to be this migration back into cities. To migrate back into cities, you essentially have to get used to the fact that you can't afford a big house. You're going to be living in a smaller apartment, and that means living with less stuff. And so it all works together. Then when you live in a city, there's a wonderful phrase that an architect friend of mine came up with, which was, small fridges make good cities. Most people who live in the suburbs, they drive to the Walmart or the big food store once a week. They stock up, they fill the double-wide fridge with frozen and prepared foods. If you live in the city, you can almost shop every day. You can go to the greengrocer, you can go to the local store and get fresh food, and you don't need to have a huge fridge. So everything starts reducing. You've got the smaller fridge, you're consuming less energy, you're using your smartphone instead of the monster TV. It's all, I think, happening organically right now. Excuse me.
Was it? So, was that 3, 4 points?
That's 3. I can't remember the others right now. But they were,
But everything makes a difference, right? And
everything makes a difference, and the important things are basically living with less stuff, buying less, buying fresh if you can,
and
thinking local, buying to last, buying good quality stuff that lasts. I often think that the carpenter should be like the farmer in the farmer's market, that you buy stuff that you know the people who made it, instead of going out to the to the IKEA and buying the mass-produced, formaldehyde-filled, particle board stuff that doesn't last.
So buy quality stuff that's built to last.
Yes.
And be okay with maybe paying a little bit more.
Yes, or buying secondhand. The ridiculous thing is that my mother-in-law offered my son a sofa. And it is in fact more expensive to hire a mover to go move a sofa than it is to go to IKEA and buy a new one. And this is crazy.
How do we change that?
Has to change. Well, first of all, find a cheaper mover. But and she didn't have to have such a monster sofa. But the fact of the matter is, it's a value thing. When I moved out of the house, I had crappy dining room chairs. 25 years later, I still have them because I haven't found anything that I really like, and I didn't want to buy a throwaway piece of furniture, so I'm sitting on the chairs that I've sat on for 25 years.
And as a specialist in
interior design, it's more important to me to get something good.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, as a specialist in the space of interior design, you would think, or at least I would think, your style might change a little bit, but it's...
Oh, it has, but I don't want to
see.
buy something that isn't the quality that's something I really want to have that means something to me. I don't want sort of temporary throwaway fast fashion furniture.
Very good. Quality, built to last, get it local.
Yeah.
Eat local. Have a smaller fridge, which will encourage you to get things more fresh and focus on your transportation.
Yeah, I have a double-wide fridge that we came in the house, and if you look in the freezer, there's 4 things in it, 4 glasses, because we try to cook fresh all the time. So that's the only thing in the freezer.
Amazing. Well, Lloyd, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
The pleasure was mine.